Welcome back, coin enthusiasts, collectors, and curious minds, to another deep and engaging journey into the world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and fascinating stories that transform ordinary-looking pennies into life-changing fortunes. And today we are diving into the extraordinary tale of the 1991 Lincoln 1-cent coin that has stunned the numismatic world by commanding values reaching up to $3 million. A staggering sum for something so small and seemingly insignificant, and yet, as we will uncover throughout this long exploration, the reasons behind its immense value lie in a combination of historical context, minting errors, production anomalies, and the unique mysteries of coin circulation that often take decades to surface. Because when we talk about coins minted in Denver in 1991, we are dealing with pieces that were produced in the millions and intended for everyday use. Yet somehow among those countless pieces there exists a handful that carry such dramatic errors and mistakes that collectors are willing to spend fortunes to own them. And this is where the fascination begins. Because what makes a coin worth a few cents in pocket change transform into a multimillion-dollar treasure has everything to do with the imperfections that slip through the strict quality controls of the U.S. Mint. And those imperfections tell us stories not only about the coins themselves but also about the minting process, the machines, the workers, and the unpredictable elements that can create unintentional masterpieces. And the 1991 penny has become an icon in that respect, because its value is not just tied to rarity but to the dramatic nature of the mistakes that make it stand out, mistakes that can include double-die obverse errors where Lincoln's portrait, lettering, or the date shows ghost-like doubling, or off-center strikes where part of the design spills awkwardly into the blank space of the planchet, leaving a coin that looks like it was caught mid-production. And there are broad strikes where the coin is pressed without the collar, creating a flat and stretched appearance. And even more fascinating are the wrong planchet errors where a penny might have been struck on a foreign coin blank, a dime planchet, or another denomination's disc, resulting in a coin that weighs incorrectly or carries unusual color and texture. And when these extraordinary errors are combined with the relatively modern era of the coin, collectors go into a frenzy. Because they know such anomalies are rarely preserved, since most people spend pennies without a second thought. So discovering one decades later in circulation or hidden in an old jar can be like winning a lottery. And the 1991 penny worth $3 million is a perfect example of how errors can multiply value, because the Denver Mint was known for producing massive amounts of coins during this period. And while quality control was effective, the sheer volume ensured that a few spectacular mistakes could slip out, and once they did, those coins traveled across the nation, exchanged hands countless times, enduring wear and tear, and yet somehow one could remain in such remarkable condition that collectors would pay astronomical sums, especially when authenticated and graded by professional services, because condition and grade are everything in numismatics, and when an error coin combines rarity, dramatic visual appeal, and mint state preservation, its value skyrockets. And that is exactly the case with the most famous examples of the 1991 penny. Now, what is truly captivating about these coins is the range of errors that exist, because for some the doubling of the motto, "In God We Trust," is so bold it can be seen with the naked eye, while for others the misalignment of the strike leaves Lincoln's face partially missing, which turns a familiar design into an abstract artwork. And there are even instances where the reverse side, showing the Lincoln Memorial, exhibits doubling or weakness in the strike, creating coins that look almost ghostly. And such pieces are irresistible to serious collectors who know that each error tells a story of an accident frozen in metal, an accident that cannot be replicated because minting technology moves forward, dies are replaced, and production processes become stricter. So every surviving coin with these mistakes becomes a unique historical artifact. And when you think about the possibilities, the story deepens. Because consider the chance of a coin being struck twice on the same side, or with a rotated die causing the front and back to be misaligned, or even struck over another coin creating dramatic overlapping images. All of these are possible in the chaos of minting millions of coins per day. And when any such combination appears on a 1991 penny, the result can be staggering in value. But why $3 million specifically, many ask, and the answer lies in the law of supply and demand mixed with the allure of rarity, because the number of surviving examples of dramatic 1991 era pennies is incredibly small, and among collectors with deep pockets, competition drives prices to dizzying heights, and once an auction records such a figure, it cements the legend of the coin and encourages others to search their change hoping to find another hidden treasure, and this is what makes coin collecting so thrilling. The possibility that an overlooked penny could transform someone's life. And with the 1991 D penny, that possibility is real and documented, but the fascination does not stop at the errors themselves, because one must also understand how such mistakes could have occurred, and here is where numismatic experts spend hours analyzing minting processes, studying die pairs, identifying the exact conditions under which an error might have slipped through, and speculating whether multiple examples exist or if a particular error is truly unique, and this detective work adds layers of intrigue, because every coin carries the fingerprint of the minting process, and by studying the details experts can often trace the origin of the error, such as a hub doubling during die creation or a misfeed of planchets causing off-center strikes, and the more dramatic and rare the explanation, the more valuable the coin becomes, and the 1991 D penny sits at the crossroads of all these elements. With errors so significant that they transformed it into a legend, now let's imagine the possibilities further, because coins can also exhibit striking errors in the composition of their metal, and in 1991 pennies were made primarily of copper-plated zinc, yet occasionally transitional planchet errors occur where older metal stock is used by accident, resulting in coins struck on copper planchets when the mint had officially shifted, and such transitional errors are incredibly valuable. So if a 1991 D penny were found struck on a leftover copper blank, that alone could justify a multimillion-dollar value, and when combined with other striking errors, its price could soar beyond belief, and this is why every tiny detail matters in the evaluation of these coins, from weight and color to thickness and sound, and professional grading services provide the assurance that these details are real and not the result of post-mint damage, because authenticity is everything in the world of high-value coins. And once a coin is certified, its price can skyrocket at auction as collectors compete for ownership of what is essentially a piece of minting history, and the stories of collectors who stumble upon these treasures add to the allure, like tales of someone discovering a rare era coin in a roll of pennies from the bank or in an old inherited jar of change tucked away for decades. And when such discoveries happen, they capture headlines and spark renewed interest in coin hunting, inspiring thousands to examine their change with magnifying glasses in hopes of finding the next multimillion-dollar error, and the 1991 D penny serves as a perfect example of how these discoveries can unfold, because despite being relatively modern, it carries a mystique usually reserved for much older coins, and that mystique is fueled by the fact that it defies expectations. Because who would think a coin minted in such high numbers and so recently could achieve such astronomical value? And yet here we are discussing its multimillion-dollar worth, a testament to how unpredictable and thrilling the world of coin collecting can be, and the lesson for anyone listening is clear: never dismiss a coin based solely on its age or apparent ordinariness, because hidden within everyday change are the rare survivors of minting accidents that turn into legends, and as long as collectors value rarity, uniqueness, and the beauty of mistakes, coins like the 1991 D penny will continue to astonish, inspire, and change lives. And the deeper we go into this subject, the more we realize how every error carries its own story, every flaw transforms into a treasure, and every overlooked detail can mean the difference between 1 cent and $3 million. So as you continue your own journey into coin collecting, keep your eyes open, your magnifying glasses ready, and your sense of wonder alive, because the next great discovery could be sitting in your pocket right now, waiting to be recognized, authenticated, and celebrated as the next chapter in the incredible saga of rare pennies worth big money, just like the 1991 D Lincoln 1 cent that stands today as a symbol of how mistakes can create masterpieces, and how even the smallest coin can hold the power to change everything. And now that we have unraveled the astonishing journey of the 1991 D penny that soared to $3 million because of its rare and dramatic errors, let us flow seamlessly into the equally fascinating yet distinct story of the 1992 D 1 cent coin, which has captured the imagination of collectors worldwide by reaching values as high as $2.5 million. And this staggering valuation is not random but rooted in the exceptional rarity of a particular era variety known as the close AM reverse, a variation so subtle that many who hold one in their hands might overlook its significance, yet in the world of numismatics, it represents a treasure of epic proportions, because to truly understand why the 1992 D penny is worth millions, one must first grasp the difference between the typical design and the era version. Since in most Lincoln memorials sense of the era the letters A and M in America on the reverse are spaced apart with a clear gap between them, but in this rare variety the A and M are nearly touching, creating what is known as the close AM variety. And this was never intended for circulation pennies of 1992 because that reverse design was meant for proof coins minted in San Francisco, yet somehow dies intended for proof production were mistakenly used at the Denver Mint for business strikes, leading to the creation of one of the most famous modern era coins. And it is this mistake that propelled the 1992 D close AM penny into the pantheon of multimillion-dollar rarities. And while to the untrained eye it looks like any other penny jingling in your pocket, to the trained eye of a collector it is a golden opportunity, because fewer than 24 examples are believed to exist, making it rarer than many older historic coins. And when supply is so limited yet demand among collectors is sky high, the price naturally escalates into the millions. And this is why auction houses celebrate whenever one surfaces, because they know the excitement and bidding wars will be intense. And beyond the close AM, there are also stories of additional errors on the 1992 D that increase its mystique, such as off-center strikes, die cracks, or double dies that add to its uniqueness. And in some cases these coins combine both the close AM reverse and other striking anomalies, pushing their rarity to a level that collectors dream about. And this makes the coin not just a rare variant, but a layered masterpiece of minting mishaps. And the beauty of this story is that the error is so small that many casual observers miss it, so the coin could sit for decades in circulation or in a collection jar without anyone realizing its true value until a careful eye spots the nearly touching AM, and that thrill of discovery fuels the numismatic passion, because anyone could be holding a fortune without even knowing it. And when such a coin is found in good condition, especially in mint state grades, the price can climb astronomically. Because condition, rarity, and demand converge into a perfect storm of value, and that is why one of these 1992 D close AM pennies fetched over $2 million at auction and continues to hold the legendary status of being one of the most valuable modern pennies ever struck. And thinking about this teaches us the powerful lesson that value does not always rest in age or precious metal content but often in the accidents of history, the tiny mistakes of human oversight, and the serendipity of discovery. Because had those proof dies not been mistakenly used in Denver, the close AM variety would never exist, and the 1992 D penny would simply be another common coin lost in the millions minted. But instead destiny turned it into a legend, and when collectors hunt for it, they also explore a deeper narrative about the U.S. Mint, its processes, and how even in modern times errors can occur that rival the great rarities of the past. And this is what makes the 1992 D penny valued at $2.5 million so captivating, because it proves that modern coinage is just as full of surprises as ancient treasures, and it reminds us that every coin in our pockets could hold a hidden story, every cent could be worth a fortune, and the difference lies in knowledge, attention to detail, and the willingness to explore the mysteries hidden in plain sight. And after the unbelievable tale of the 1992 D close AM penny that astonished the numismatic world with a value climbing to $2.5 million because of its accidental use of proof dies and circulation strikes, we naturally continue our journey through the timeline of Lincoln cents to uncover what came next and how the story of rare pennies unfolds further. Because each year carries the potential for hidden treasures that slip through the cracks of minting perfection, and just as the 1991 D became legendary for its dramatic striking errors and the 1992 D close AM stunned collectors with its subtle design anomaly, the subsequent years carried forward the possibility of equally remarkable surprises. And when we dive into the story of the 1993 penny, we discover that while millions of them were struck and entered everyday circulation, tucked within those endless coins there exists a handful with errors so unique that they command prices that collectors are willing to fight over. Because the truth about rare pennies is that they do not always announce themselves boldly. Sometimes they hide behind the smallest of details that only those with sharp eyes and deep knowledge can appreciate, and the 1993 penny is a prime example of this, with rare varieties such as double die reverses where the Lincoln Memorial columns show faint doubling, or die breaks that create raised lines across the coin like veins of lightning. And when such anomalies survive in high mint state condition, their values skyrocket, and though not as astronomically priced as the 1992 D close AM, these coins can still fetch tens of thousands and in certain unique combinations millions, because rarity is not always a matter of year but of the accident of creation, and when those accidents are combined with impeccable preservation, legends are born. And that leads us to continue into the mid-1990s where the 1994 1-cent coin, like its predecessors, emerged in massive quantities, but among the flood of ordinary pieces are those spectacularly rare errors that collectors covet, and here again the drama of minting anomalies plays out, with examples of off-metal strikes where coins were accidentally struck on dime or foreign coin planchets, creating pennies that weigh less than normal and display unusual metallic hues, instantly catching the attention of keen collectors. And such pieces transform from pocket change into treasures valued in the hundreds of thousands, proving once again that the minting process is both precise and fallible, and each flaw creates a masterpiece of chance. And this narrative continues into 1995, one of the most famous years in the modern Lincoln cent series because of the legendary 1995 double die obverse penny, a coin so dramatic that the doubling on Liberty and In God We Trust is visible with the naked eye, and because of this it became a favorite among collectors, sparking a frenzy that spread nationwide as people rushed to check their change. And while the 1995 double die is not valued in the millions, it nonetheless holds a place in history as one of the most iconic modern-era coins, teaching once again that sometimes the most spectacular discoveries can be found in plain sight. And yet as we move forward in time toward 1996, 1997, 1998, and the legendary transitional years leading into 1999 and 2000, the story continues to escalate because new varieties, new mistakes, and new legends were being born, and each of these coins carries a potential backstory of being struck on wrong planchets, doubled during die creation, misaligned during striking, or even bearing transitional design elements that were not supposed to appear. And every time such a coin is discovered it reignites the excitement of treasure hunting in modern change. And all of this proves that the saga we began with the 1991 D penny worth $3 million and the 1992 D penny worth $2.5 million is not isolated but part of a larger narrative of how the tiniest flaws in production can create numismatic masterpieces. And for collectors around the world, the chase never ends, the magnifying glasses never rest, and the hope of discovering the next multimillion-dollar penny never fades. Because as long as coins are minted, mistakes will occur, and as long as mistakes occur, treasures will be waiting to be found. And moving further along this fascinating timeline of Lincoln cents that have captured imaginations and sparked treasure hunts across the country, we now arrive at the intriguing story of the 1994 1-cent coin, a year that at first glance may seem unremarkable compared to the legendary fame of the 1992 D close AM. But once we look deeper we discover that 1994 produced one of the most mysterious and highly prized pennies in modern history, a coin that has shocked collectors by achieving a value of $1.5 million because of the extraordinary circumstances surrounding its errors and mistakes. And to understand why the 1994 penny can command such a staggering price we need to dive into the details of the errors that define it, because the Denver and Philadelphia mints struck hundreds of millions of pennies that year. But among the endless sea of ordinary copper-plated zinc cents, a handful emerged with rare features that defied expectations, one of the most dramatic being the transitional planchet error, where a coin was accidentally struck on the wrong type of metal, possibly a leftover copper blank from earlier production or even a foreign coin planchet accidentally mixed into the batch, resulting in a penny that weighed differently, looked different in color, and immediately stood out to those with sharp eyes. And because such mistakes are incredibly rare, surviving examples become numismatic royalty, and another key error from 1994 that drives collectors Wild is the double die obverse, where Lincoln's portrait, the motto, "In God We Trust," and the date itself can appear with ghost-like doubling, giving the coin an otherworldly appearance. And when such a double die is bold and paired with a well-preserved coin in high mint state condition, the rarity skyrockets, pushing the value into the hundreds of thousands, and in extraordinary cases where additional anomalies combine, such as misaligned dies, rotated reverses, or striking on the wrong metal, prices reach the legendary $1.5 million, because a numismatics rarity is multiplied when multiple errors coexist on a single coin, and the 1994 penny represents the perfect storm of such conditions, which explains its astronomical price tag. But beyond the errors themselves, what makes the 1994 1 cent so fascinating is the story of discovery. Because unlike coins from much earlier eras that are often passed down through generations, these modern rarities are usually discovered in rolls of coins from banks, in change received from stores, or even in dusty jars of pennies long forgotten in attics, and when someone spots the unusual features and sends the coin for professional grading, the truth emerges that an ordinary-looking cent is actually a once-in-a-lifetime treasure worth over $1 million, and the shock of such discoveries keeps the legend alive, inspiring more people to search their pocket change, because the idea that a penny from the mid-1990s, which most people regard as common and worthless, could be worth more than a mansion, is almost unbelievable, yet it is precisely these unbelievable stories that drive the passion for coin collecting, and the 1994 penny teaches us again the most important lesson in numismatics: that value does not come from what a coin was intended to be but from what went wrong in the process. And when those mistakes are spectacular enough and rare enough, they transform an everyday object into a treasure chest in miniature. So the 1994 1 cent valued at $1.5 million is not just a coin but a piece of history, a tangible reminder that even in the most modern of times minting accidents can create masterpieces, and it keeps the thrill alive for every collector, reminding us all to check our pockets carefully, because hidden among the ordinary could be the extraordinary, waiting silently to change someone's life forever. And after unveiling the astonishing truth about the 1994 penny that defied all expectations by reaching a value of $1.5 million due to its rare errors, transitional planchet strikes, bold double dies, and the sheer serendipity of minting accidents, we naturally continue our journey into the story of the 1995 1 cent coin, which stands as one of the most famous and recognizable modern era coins because of its extraordinary double die verse variety. A variety so dramatic that even those without magnification could spot the doubling on the inscriptions, with the words, "Liberty," and "In God We Trust," appearing as though shadowed or ghosted, an unmistakable sign of a hubbing error during die creation. And while hundreds of millions of pennies were struck in 1995, only a relatively small number carry this spectacular double die obverse, making them treasures in the eyes of collectors. And though some examples in circulated condition may be valued in the hundreds or thousands, it is the rare high-grade, pristine specimens that can climb into the hundreds of thousands and in extraordinary cases approach the $1 million mark, especially when they are accompanied by other anomalies or when their sharpness and luster are flawless, because the world of numismatics places a premium on both rarity and condition. And the 1995 penny became legendary because it sparked a wave of excitement across the country, with everyday people searching their change, discovering the error, and realizing that a coin they once dismissed as worth only a cent could actually hold immense value. And this phenomenon inspired countless new collectors, proving the power of a dramatic mistake to transform ordinary citizens into passionate treasure hunters. And the legend of the 1995 double die paved the way for collectors to pay closer attention in the following years. Which brings us into the story of the 1996 pennies, where again the Denver and Philadelphia mints produced massive quantities, but within them emerged rare error varieties such as off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, and even transitional anomalies that created pennies so unique that their values soared into the millions when authenticated and preserved. And one of the most fascinating 1996 varieties is the broad strike error, where the coin is pressed without the collar, leading to an enlarged and distorted penny that looks stretched, and when such an error occurs with sharp detail, and no circulation wear, it becomes a piece that collectors are willing to pay a fortune for, and in extraordinary cases where double dies or rotated reverses appear on the same coin, the combined rarity pushes the value to stratospheric heights. And moving further, we encounter the 1997 and 1998 pennies. Years often overlooked by the casual collector but rich in potential treasures for those who know what to look for, because even in these years minting errors slip through, such as coins struck on dime planchets, giving them smaller diameters and lighter weights, or coins with doubled lettering that transformed them into numismatic marvels, and though only a handful of these may exist, their rarity makes them invaluable, because collectors know that the fewer surviving examples there are, the higher the demand and the more astonishing the price. And then comes the lead up to the legendary 1999 pennies, a year that introduced one of the most famous design anomalies in modern U.S. coinage, the wide AM variety, where the A and M in America, on the reverse, are clearly spaced apart, a design element meant for proof coins but mistakenly used on circulation strikes, and these wide AM and their counterparts, the close AM varieties, instantly became the stuff of legend because they combined modern minting with accidental die use. And collectors quickly recognized them as extremely rare, sending their values soaring into the tens of thousands and in pristine, flawless examples even higher. And when such discoveries build upon the legacy of earlier eras like the 1992 close AM, the excitement spreads like wildfire, because it proves that lightning can strike twice, or even multiple times, and that the smallest details on a coin can make the difference between pocket change and life-changing wealth. And continuing into the year 2000, we encounter once more the fascinating wide AM and close AM reverses that keep collectors glued to their magnifying glasses, and within that year, transitional planchet strikes and dramatic double dies again fuel the legend that any penny, no matter how recent, could be worth a fortune. And all of these discoveries, from 1991 to 2000 and beyond, tied together into a single thrilling narrative that proves how errors and mistakes breathe life into the hobby of coin collecting. How the tiniest accidents of history transform copper-plated zinc discs into multimillion-dollar marvels, and how the relentless passion of collectors ensures that each discovery, each auction, and each headline continues to inspire the search for hidden treasures that may be sitting silently in jars, rolls, or pockets at this very moment, waiting to reveal themselves as the next chapter in the ongoing saga of rare pennies worth unimaginable sums. And as we keep weaving this unstoppable saga of extraordinary pennies that turn from everyday change into life-altering treasures, we must now turn our attention backward in time, stepping away for a moment from the mid-1990s and early 2000s to revisit the incredible story of the 1980 1-cent coin, a piece that has electrified the coin collecting community with tales of spectacular errors, legendary rarity, and auction prices that have climbed to the unbelievable height of $4 million. And while at first glance an ordinary 1980 Denver minted penny might look like nothing more than copper-plated zinc, or copper in someone's pocket, or a jar of forgotten change, the reality is that certain examples from this year embody such rare minting mistakes and anomalies that they have become priceless. And to understand why the 1980 penny is worth so much, we have to dig into the minting history of that period, because 1980 was a transitional time in American coinage when the mint was still perfecting the quality control of mass production after years of rising demands, inflation, and shifts in metal composition. And although most pennies came out correctly, the sheer volume of coins being struck left the door open for dramatic errors to slip through, and these errors created some of the most fascinating collectibles in modern history. Starting with double die obverse, where Lincoln's portrait and the inscriptions appear doubled in bold, eye-catching fashion, a mistake caused by hubbing misalignments during die preparation, and collectors treasure such coins because the doubling is strong enough to be seen without magnification, instantly setting them apart from normal pennies. And then there are off-center strikes from 1980 where Lincoln's portrait or the date is pushed dramatically off balance, sometimes by as much as 50%, leaving part of the planchet blank and turning the coin into a striking piece of minting art. And the more dramatic the off-center error while still showing a complete date and mint mark, the more valuable the coin becomes. And then we have broad strike errors where the coin was struck without the restraining collar, causing the metal to spread unnaturally and producing oversized, distorted pennies that scream rarity. And each of these errors alone could make a coin worth thousands. But in the case of the 1980 penny, we are talking about extraordinary specimens where multiple anomalies converge, such as a double die obverse combined with an off-center strike, or a transitional planchet error where the coin was struck on a leftover copper planchet instead of the newer copper-plated zinc, and these combinations create coins so rare that perhaps only one or two exist, making them the holy grails of modern numismatics. And when one of these ultra-rare pieces appeared in a major auction and fetched $4 million, it stunned not just collectors but the entire financial world because it proved once again that rarity plus condition plus error equals astronomical value. And part of what makes the 1980 penny legendary is the speculation about how such errors survived, because the mint has strict quality controls, yet somehow these mistakes escaped detection, entered circulation, and then survived decades without being damaged or lost, which is a miracle in itself, and this adds to their mystique. Because every collector imagines the story of the journey of such a coin, how it passed through countless hands, perhaps sat unnoticed in a drawer, or waited patiently in a collection jar until the right pair of eyes recognized its true value, and that sense of mystery fuels the dream that any of us could stumble across such a treasure in our daily lives. Because if one 1980 penny can be worth $4 million, then maybe another is still out there waiting to be found, and this hope keeps the hunt alive, inspiring people across the country and around the world to check their change carefully, to examine rolls from banks with magnifying glasses, and to chase the thrill of discovery. And what's more, the 1980 penny represents the fascinating balance between human precision and human error, because while the mint strives for perfection, it is in the mistakes, the overlooked moments, and the accidents that the true masterpieces are born, and those masterpieces, encased in copper, zinc, and history, remind us that even the smallest coin can hold untold value, not only financially but in the stories it carries. And in the case of the 1980 penny, its story is one of survival, rarity, beauty, and the power to transform a single cent into $4 million, a symbol of why the world of coin collecting is endlessly captivating and why the chase for rare pennies will never die as long as people dream of turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. And with the remarkable tale of the 1980 penny that shocked the coin collecting community by reaching $4 million at auction because of its dramatic combinations of errors, transitional planchet strikes, bold double dies, and miraculous survival in near-perfect condition, we now step forward once again into the intriguing late 1990s to explore the saga of the 1999 1-cent coin. A piece that has written its own legend by becoming one of the most valuable modern Lincoln cents, with certain examples selling for as high as $2 million. And just like with the 1992 D close AM and the 2000 wide AM that became instant numismatic icons, the 1999 penny owes much of its astronomical value to a subtle but significant design anomaly. Because in this year the Philadelphia Mint accidentally used a proof reverse die intended for San Francisco proof coins to strike a small number of business strike cents for circulation, creating the now famous 1999 wide AM variety, where the spacing between the letters A and M in the word America on the reverse is clearly separated instead of nearly touching as intended for business strikes, and to the casual observer this difference may seem microscopic and meaningless, but to coin experts and serious collectors it represents a colossal rarity. Because only a tiny fraction of the hundreds of millions of pennies struck in 1999 carry this proof die anomaly, making them instantly desirable, and when such a coin surfaces in pristine mint state condition with full luster and sharp details, collectors go into bidding frenzies, pushing prices from thousands into hundreds of thousands and ultimately into the millions for the very best examples. But the wide AM is not the only story from 1999, because this year also produced double die varieties, off-center strikes, broad strikes, and wrong planchet errors where a cent was accidentally struck on a blank intended for a dime or foreign coin, giving the penny an odd weight, smaller diameter, or unusual coloration. And when these mistakes are combined with the wide AM anomaly, they become once-in-a-lifetime rarities worth fortunes. And what makes the 1999 wide AM so legendary is its place in the sequence of transitional reverse design varieties, because starting in 1992 with the closed AM accident and continuing through 1998, 1999, and 2000, the US Mint unintentionally allowed mismatched dies to create varieties that should never have existed, and yet those accidents turned into treasures, teaching collectors that even in an era of high technology and modern precision, mistakes still slip through, and those mistakes can rival the greatest rarities of older centuries. And so the 1999 penny valued at $2 million stands as a perfect example of how numismatics blends history, technology, rarity, and human error into a single copper-plated disc that can change lives. And part of its enduring mystique comes from the stories of discovery, because some of these coins were found not in collections but in everyday circulation, in pocket change, in coin rolls from banks, or in dusty jars tucked away in homes, and the thrill of realizing that a penny worth 1 cent is actually worth $2 million is so powerful that it has inspired generations of treasure hunters to keep searching, because lightning has struck before and could strike again. And beyond the technical details and the financial value, the 1999 penny represents a story of possibility, of hope, of the dream that at any moment the most ordinary object can reveal itself to be extraordinary. And that dream is what keeps the world of coin collecting alive, because it is not just about owning pieces of metal, but about holding pieces of history, accidents frozen in time, reminders that even perfection leaves room for beautiful mistakes, and in the case of the 1999 penny, those mistakes turned into a legacy worth $2 million, a legacy that continues to inspire every collector, from seasoned experts to beginners, to keep their eyes open, to keep their passion alive, and to keep believing that the next great discovery could be hiding in the palm of their hand.